this episode of the Shadows Project, we will speak to Nick Dunn, a man whose life changed dramatically one fateful day in India in 2013. His story captured the attention of the world's media, prompting him to write a harrowing account of what transpired over the next 4 years. Yeah, but did you self-publish your book, or did you do it?
I basically put out the feelers, saying I was interested in wanting to do a book. I had an interview with, I wouldn't say an interview, it was more of a sit down, drink, have some food, chat, me basically tell the guy who helped put it into context, the book, and an agent, and basically I sold my story to them, and they we're very interested.
Yeah.
Leave it with us. So obviously they drafted up contract with the agent, and then obviously he done his literary agent skills and got myself it published. But when I've come to do the book, it's been at one of those times where a lot of publishing companies are like staying a bit standoffish because there's been so many military guys writing books, and everyone's got everyone's got a story, but a lot of these military books are practically the fucking same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
They're talking about their experiences and stuff like that. I'm talking about a modern life injustice.
Yeah.
And that should never have happened. I'm talking about corruption. I'm talking about this apparent, beautiful, inspiring, blossoming relationship as David Cameron worded and said to the British government that the UK and India in their ties. And I think, well, it's clearly blossoming and a beautiful relationship when I'm stuck in a fucking prison, you prick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's all just it's all just hyperbole, innit? Just to try, you know what I mean? Really, we all know it's nonsense, the stuff that they talk, but they just try and create bonds for trade and things like that. All money's at the heart of things. The humanity is like, non-existent, really.
I can understand where the British government stands on it. They did raise it quite a lot of times, and you can raise it and talk about actions speak louder than words, but you've got to, as when you're in prison and your families are trying to fight for justice and trying to get them to understand the nature of everything, it's going to be difficult, and families are always going to be gung-ho into worry, into not listening, just focusing on trying to achieve you getting freedom and justice, and I believe they missed out on we were going through, potential Brexit for the voting. We'll have big trade deals going on, so they're going to take priority over ex-military guys. They don't even take pity on actual veterans. Full stop. Being in a prison, it was one of those things. On the consular side of things, over in India, I can't put a fault wrong. I can't personally say to them they did something wrong. They didn't do what I wanted them to do if I had any problems. I just believe the British government it was a bit of a lackluster stance on things. It was, we know they're innocent, and we'll just play it out. It'll just come to an end at some point, and it did. It took 4 years away of our lives, which shouldn't have happened. And if they bothered their arse in July 2014, listened to what our lawyers were telling them, things might have worked out totally different. If I'd came home in 2014, I probably wouldn't have wrote a book. It was whilst in prison the second time, people writing to me in prison and saying, have you ever thought about writing your memoirs down, because you don't know how long this potentially could go on. Like I say, I'd still be in prison to this day, serving my 5-year sentence, which would ultimately end as like 7.5 years in total. So 4 years or 7.5 years, I know what all day long, but it was people kind, amazing, supporting people, saying you know you've got a story, and when people like read the book, and it's not just me blabbering on about me leading up to joining the army and my time in the army, going into private security and the whole India. It's got my family side as well, so you're getting two stories from two different
it's like one of the chapters is your sister Lisa, talking about, like, she seems the most like an ardent campaigner to try and get you free, you know.
Well, my sister, like, I can just go off what I have seen, and I didn't get to see that much, obviously, and what people have told us. But she did spearhead the attack. She didn't lay off. She stuck by a mother who had suffered a double aneurysm. She had to deal with the media going around the whole case and deal with my needs. She didn't just go, well, I'm not going to deal with the media. And, like I say, and, I don't want to talk to the media because blah, blah. Yeah, the media can be the devil's advocate at times, and it can spout shit, but none of the media over the 4 years of me was wrong. Okay, they do exaggerate slightly. Instead of saying 4 months, they'll say 6 months, and they occasionally got me age wrong now and again. But other than that, what they were told is what came from me to my sister, or directly from the lawyer. Simple as that.
I had a friend who a few years ago, well, he's one of my best friends still, like, but his cousin was in there, got arrested and put in prison here in Bulgaria. So I think he was in prison for about 5 years. He was at the Liverpool Champions League final, and so it made me think of that case and how powerful our government actually is in getting people back. It's quite powerless, really, in many ways. You know, because like, I know the Indian side of things would have been painfully slow, but obviously on the British side, you're not insignificant, but you kind of, you know, you're at the bottom of a huge pile of other things that they're dealing with, and that must be one of the biggest frustrations, you know.
I definitely, well, me personally, as a group of 6, we never thought, being ex-military, we deserve any treatment better than any other British national wrongfully imprisoned abroad. Definitely not. However, you'd think, since we had put our lives on the line for Queen and country, to give people the life, to basically let people enjoy their freedom, you'd thought, these people have gave it all and some more. At least we know they've done nothing wrong. The weapons that they said are illegal, the documentation with them weapons comes from the UK government anyways. You'd have thought the British government would have been a bit more proactive. However, they weren't. They just basically went along and just cracked on, and you just think, well, hang on a minute. Did my 6 years in the British Army mean fucking jack shit to you?
Exactly.
Like, however,
it was also the paratroopers, you were in. So it's the most elite unit, as well. So not just, I know being a soldier obviously difficult enough, but being in, you know, an elite unit like the paratroopers, is like even more daring and
it's
difficult in many ways.
It's one of those things, and even when we're going through the case, because every day was like going into the unknown. When things had happened, 9 times out of 10 it didn't go in our favour. We always looked back and went, I wish we could have done something, but we didn't know what we knew then.
Yeah.
Then.
Well, you think you were set up though, no?
Oh, well, without a shadow of a doubt, we were set up. There was absolutely no way they would have known where we were.
Yeah. So this was the owner of the company, of the boat you were on?
The owner of the company got in touch with the local agent to procure fuel and food and water. To get the fuel, a vessel had to come out to sea to distribute it, because our vessel, as far as I can remember, was not certified to enter that port, and if it was to get accepted into that port, it would go on the expensive dock, because obviously it's going to want maximum money. So we had no intention of going into the port of Tuticorin whatsoever. The second officer was complaining of not being paid. He was close enough to get a phone signal, and we believe he may have alerted the Coast Guards and said they had weapons, and we don't know. But the way our agent was dealing and with the police and laughing and joking, it makes you wonder. And then when the trial come, well, think, well, why is the agent not being arrested with us? He's part of us. Everyone else is.
Yeah.
So, and then you come to the trial, and I think only $11,000 had actually been spent out of only the $40,000 that was given to the agent, and it makes you wonder where all this extra money's gone now. Exactly. Well, he's clearly bought his freedom, because everyone has a price over there, and we did see the agent when we got out. When we wanted answers, and we threatened him, and he sharp disappeared.
Yeah.
But it was totally disgusting. At the beginning you don't think, you just think your family and what potentially is going on. But yeah, we were definitely set up. We were made an example of. At the time, India had been chucked off the NATO maritime defence system, basically because they were just going around murdering fishermen, and NATO didn't like how they were acting, so they sacked them. And then they were complaining, saying we want the high risk area moved further into the Indian Ocean because we can police our own waters, which India they can't. And obviously January 2012, 2 Italians killed 2 innocent Indian fishermen off the coast of Kerala, so they could never prosecute them. And India was always, every time we were in India, we were always hearing bits of the Italian Marines, and it was always linked to us because we both did maritime. The difference is we were private, they were working for their country of Italy in their version of the Royal Marines. So they were going to have their country back, and then they obviously took it to the International Tribunal Court. We couldn't because it cost fucking a lot of money. So we had to ride out the storm basically, and every news clip and every media was always linking them to us, and the only relevance was they did maritime, we did maritime. They killed 2 fishermen. We apparently have got illegal weapons, which were in by 1 month previously to being arrested, all accredited, stamped and approved. So how can 1 minute be legal, next minute illegal?
It makes you question any news though, doesn't it? When you see things on in any country really, you just...
we were told we were selling weapons to fishermen off the locals in the prison, because we were always in their local Tamil paper more than the Indian Hindu paper or the Deccan Chronicle, the local paper, and we were going to be doing a Mumbai-style attack on the nuclear power station as well, and we're reading this and fucking rolling around, laughing, thinking, are these people for real? Like, when I came home, everyone was like, "Oh, you want to get yourself in touch with banged up Brits abroad?" I did. I spoke to them, but because I'm innocent, they're not interested. Look, every person. Yeah, I was convicted. But I was wrongly convicted. Every single person on that programme is guilty, one way or another. And I don't care what anyone says, they are. If you say go to Dubai, you've got to have your wits about you. You've got to know they've got the religious police, who are 10 times worse than the normal police. You've got to be very careful. Their laws are totally different to ours. Yes, okay, it may be slightly in certain areas relaxed, but that's how they get you.
I've read that book, Shantaram. Have you ever read that? It's about a guy who's in prison in New Zealand, and he escaped New Zealand. He was in prison for armed robbery, and he escaped. In Australia, he escaped to New Zealand and got a false passport, and he started to work for the underworld, like the mafia in India, and lived in the slums and all this. But when he talks about the Indian authorities and that, he basically says like the mafia are more legitimate than the authorities over there.
Oh, the police in India are corrupt beyond corrupt. They can't lie straight in bed, man. The gangsters in India do all the work there, man. They go around politicians and end up in prison. We had loads of gang members in our prison. We get pissed, man. Skinny little bastard. They wouldn't head. But over in their country, they're big guys. You look in our prisons in the UK, there's some nasty criminals there. However, put them in my prison, we'll see how tough they are.
Exactly,
We'll see how tough they are when they don't have a normal toilet, where they don't have a bed, where they've got to cook their own food, where they've got a language barrier.
Because there's a thing that there was like a slogan, a phrase that the paratroopers use. I think it was Trinquis Paratus or something. What was it?
Utrinque Paratus.
Utrinque Paratus. Ready for anything. So
we weren't ready for anything.
No.
I will pop your hand on your heart. We weren't ready for this. We had to go along day by day and take it as because one day you would think things would go well, and in a blink of an eye, prosecutor doesn't turn up, and then you're back to square one, or the judge will not turn up. Then we had to contend. I think it was about 3 months. I think, or it was either 3 weeks or 3 months of court strikes, lawyers going on strike. Have you heard anything like that to ever happen in the UK? No, because if you're a lawyer and you go on strike, you just don't have a job. Courts won't close.
But you say, like ready for anything. Do you think you were more prepared than just from your experiences in the past? Like probably a lot more than someone like me, for example, who's never.
Yes. Most definitely. Being ex-military, you learn more to be having a bit more wits about you. You learn to assess any situation going into it. So going into that prison, going into your cell, you'd assess this and you go, right, I'm going to put my bed space here, my 2 sheets, this is where I'm going to be in this corner, that's where I'm going to live. And then you kind of, once you've still got a healthy mind, get yourself into some sort of routine and stick to that routine, because that routine will save your life. It may become very mundane at times, but that's prison. It's not a fucking holiday camp like in the UK. This is proper prison. This is the kind of prison where you don't want to go back in.
Because I read something or watched something about, you were saying about like the mental health side of things. Talking about it helps, helps you get through really, or helps you, cope.
Yeah, everything that happened in the 4 years is all mental, and you've got to learn to go past your mental capabilities. We all talk about the walls. How do I overcome this wall? Do I go under it, go through it, around it somehow, over it? You have to do that, and we went through so many different challenges just to, like, for us it was big. For most people it would be small, but when you're in the situation we're in, you would sharp see the difference, and it was difficult. There was times where you just wanted to just throw the towel in and just think, well, we're nowhere further forward.
Yeah.
Something's got to give. Like delaying the appeal answer for nearly 1 year because they just wanted to drag it out. That just wouldn't happen in the UK court system. And don't get me wrong, a few of the lads, I'm not going to blame them for this, but they were kind of expecting a lot more, and we had to keep saying to them, listen mate, you're not in fucking the UK, you're in India.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many times they turn around and say to you, we mirror the UK system. Yeah, from about 100 years ago, mate.
Exactly, yeah.
What we got away with murder nearly from stuff we were allowed in our prison to make it more comfortable, because that was the help of the British consul and us showing that we're not your typical criminal, that we are law-abiding citizens, and you've got to build that rapport with the prison. And
did you have times when you lost control, or when you just punched people, or you just went crazy?
Like I let my emotions get the best of me, and I caused a 3-month lockdown.
Yeah, in the prison.
I was very flavour of the month. Yeah, I wasn't well liked in that time.
Yeah. Because
I restricted everyone's movement. We couldn't go out of a compound. Yeah. Okay, people rebelled, and by all means, that let them crack on. But it created it created more problems for themselves than anyone else. But the superintendent, I understood where she was coming from. She had high-profile people in her prison, i.e. us. She didn't want anything bad to happen to us, because there is nasty criminals. And then I remember, I call him Slasher in my book, because he was covered in scars, and he had his blade in his mouth, in his cheek.
Oh dear.
And he'd do that, and he could just fucking slay you, put it in his mouth, and you wouldn't know none of the wiser.
Yeah.
So you have your wits about you, and keep people at arm's length. Help me, help you, and as they all say, my friend is my enemy is my friend, and stuff like that. Keep your friends close, your enemies close. I wouldn't say anyone was an enemy in there of mine, but when you want something, whether it be a lighter to smoke a little bit Indian biddies, or you get some cigarettes or whatnot smuggled in a pack of rice, that you need people, if you want something done, you've got to play the game, unfortunately. If you go into that prison and constantly be rebellious or seething anger all the time, it's going to be good.
If you could only feel the ache within such a battered soul, and ride it out each night so it can't take its toll, maybe you would salivate at thoughts of just one simple thing, or shudder at the subdued wrath that each new dawn may bring. Maybe you would howl in pain from haunting loss of dreams, or reel in agony at hearing grown men's piercing screams. Maybe you would rattle at your cage until you're beaten black and blue, or maybe you would sit in silence, not knowing what to say or do. Or perhaps, stirred by injustice, as cruel and unforgiving as the devil's eyes, sickened at the sight of strong men shackled by unjust and unrelenting lies, maybe you would join us in the ecstasy of knowing you've defied the test and stoically battled through to show them you can take their best. You could scream at them with us, love us, loathe us, fear us, hurt us, hate us. No mortal man can break our will, for we stand by our motto. We are Utrinque Paratus.